Post-NFL draft grades are in, and the Dallas Cowboys earn an A, and they sit atop of the NFC.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That is Keith Sanchez. And on today's episode, we're breaking down, giving the draft grades for our top 10 NFC teams, the teams that had the 10 highest grades for us post 2026 NFL Draft. At the end of the show, we're going to talk about teams 8 through 10 who came in with the, I guess, least highest grades out of the group. We're going to get into the middle tier, teams that did pretty solid. We're going to talk start off with the top three, Keith. 1 through 3, Keith. I'm going to read mine off, and I'll let you read yours. At number 1, I have the Dallas Cowboys with a grade of an A. At number 2, I have the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC with a grade of an A-. At number 3, I had the New York Giants with a grade of a B+.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to go my 3. And I think it's important for the listeners, for them to know that we're revealing this to each other, right? Like we didn't go over this, so we're not blind ranking because we know what we picked, but to our co-hosts, to each other, these are blind rankings. I went New Orleans Saints 1. I gave them an A+.
I'm not.
I went New York Giants 2. I gave them an A, and I went Tampa Bay Bucks. I gave them an A. DP, I'm gonna toss it back to you and let you start where you want to start with this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, kid, I'm start with the big fish, of course, the Dallas Cowboys. I gave them an A, not having to move. Remember coming into the draft, heck, on our final mock, I had them moving up to 3, right? Like it was so much smoke and talk about them potentially moving up. And I love what they were able to do. Stand pat, stay, or they did move up. They move up one spot. Then they gave up like a late round picks. They got the picks back, so it didn't really matter. Getting Caleb Downs, who was our number 1 rated prospect on our top 50 big board to end the season. So to get the number 1 rated prospect in the draft for us at number 11, because you just moved up one spot, like that's a home run. I love the addition of Malachi Lawrence, because just they brought in Rashawn Gary. I think Malachi Lawrence is your long-term answer opposite of Donovan Ezoroku. So now you got 2 explosive, young, athletic rushers to get after the quarterback, and they can play contain and chase from backside with the type of athleticism they bring. Deshaun Barham, I like that in the 3rd round as well.
Yeah, I'm going to jump to, I think it was what they was able to get in the 5th round, I think. That was the 5th round pick, LT Overton. I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, why I like that pick is combined with the Malachi Lawrence pick, because you add in LT Overton. He's another one of those big, versatile kind of, right? And everybody's been listening to his podcast at the very beginning of the season, right? There was a conversation of between him and Rueben Bane, right? Because they were similar sizes as far as like 6'3", 280, right? And so LT Overton is similar. I'm not going to put him in a class with the Rashawn Gary, right? But more the defensive lineman version of Rashawn Gary. Just gives you a versatile defensive interior lineman up front, and then you add in the Malachi Lawrence. I like that combination, DP. I'll jump into my number 1, right? Because it probably caught people off guard, right? The New Orleans Saints. But DP, I look at what they did, right? When you talk about the combination of fulfilling team needs, you got Jordan Tyson, right? Who to us was the number 1 wide receiver in the draft class, right? Set at 8, didn't have to give up anything to get to him. Then you go get a defensive tackle that people were going in the 1st round. Some people think was the best defensive tackle in the draft, Christian Miller, right? A big defensive tackle, nose tackle, whatever you want to play him, to let him stuff up the trenches. Then you follow up, you get Oscar Delp in the 3rd round, one of the fastest rising prospects. And then Jeremiah Wright, the offensive guard out of Auburn. DP, I told you, he was one of my standout guys from the Senior Bowl, former defensive lineman that plays offensive lineman, that plays like a defensive lineman. And then I look at Bryce Lance, right? Somebody that we said was severely underrated. And then you finish it out with Lorenzo Styles Jr., safety, right? A lot of speed. Barry and Brown, premier punt returner, kick returner. And then TJ Hall, the corner out of Iowa, who some people really liked early on in the process. So I looked at him, DP. I'll say this is the first, and this is not any it's not any home bias, right? This is the first Mickey Loomis draft I've liked since we've been doing this. The rest of them, you were with me at the draft network. I'm like, this This is not good at all. This is a C, and it might be a D, right? But it is what it is. This is the first one, and I said, hey, this is a pretty good draft, like that, and this is one that they're going to need. So that's why I went to New Orleans Saints, and then I'll say like the tell me which one you want to discuss. I went New York Giants and then Tampa Bay Bucks. That was my number 2 and my number 3.
Let's jump to the Giants. Let's talk to the Giants because I had the Giants in my top 3 as well, Keith.
Okay.
Getting Arvell Reese. Yeah, I had him at 3. I didn't expect them to take Arvell Reese, but getting a premier player that now John Harbaugh just have a plan. If he's going, I think he's going to play off.
They got to make it work, right? They can't have a repeat season with Arvell Reese that they had with Abdul Carter, right? Like it can't be confusion. They have to have a player.
And I think when you look at the top 4 picks, Arvell Reese, pick 5, pick 10, Francis CC Mawinoa, pick the second round pick, Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee, and then third round at 74, they get our guy Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame.
Can I pause?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to pause because I want to ask you a question. How do you feel about Colton Hood? Go ahead.
So I like Colton. He's a press man type of corner. He's a redshirt sophomore, so I think he's a young kid. A lot of development to happen with him, but I think he fits what they want to do and everything. I think this is good value for him too. Coming into the Senior Bowl, certain draft analysts was putting too much on this young man's plate and on his back. Of they were writing checks that he had to go out there and cash. Yeah. And I never liked doing that. Like, out of nowhere, Colton Hood's a top 15 pick, and I'm like, where was this during the season? You know what I mean? Like, you want to be early on the no. Then he goes out there and he struggles at the Senior Bowl. Because it's like everybody's expecting him to look like a top 15 pick.
Yeah, that's what stuck with me was him struggling during the Senior Bowl. And so tying this back to the draft, I liked what they did in the first round, right? With their 2 first-round picks when they did Arvell Reese, Francine Magor, right? I was like, okay, cool. This is pretty solid. And then when I'm like, okay, follow this up, get your wide receiver in the second round. They went Colton Hood, and I was sitting there like, oh no, you need a playmaker, right? Like that's what I was thinking in my mind, but they played it right. Malachi Fields was still there in the third round. They was able to
they read the board kind of well because that second round I did a show on Saturday morning, Keith. That second round was full of tight ends that shouldn't have been second round picks. I don't know what the NFL was doing. I get the 12 personnel, 13 personnel thing. It's a copycat league, but absolutely not. Some of those names in the second round were 4th and 5th round talents, and teams were reaching for them. And the Giants were like, you know what? That
Jaguars, means the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah. You know, we're gonna get through the AFC tomorrow and realize the Jacksonville Jaguars are not my top
pick. We probably need a show on. We could probably do that after we knock out these shows. We need a show on what were they thinking, right?
Yes,
like that's some of the worst drafts, right? We need to discuss
our worst grades. But yeah, I think with the Giants, their top 4 picks, Keith, I think all of them see the field in 2026. And I think that's why I really like, because they found guys that they're going to, that not saying they're all going to be like full impact guys. I think Colton Hood gets rotated in and may not start right away. Malachi Fields, I think he has a chance to start out the gate for him if he goes into training camp and handles his business, because he's the right complement to Malik Neighbors in terms of he's 6'4", 220 pounds, big body guy. Helps Jackson Dart with, hey, man, Malachi's down there somewhere. And in that catch radius. So I like that a lot, Keith. Go to Tampa Bay.
Transition to your last thing. I just wanted to say one more thing about the Giants real quick. Jack Kelly. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Getting him in the 6th round, I think I had more of a 3rd, 4th round grade on him. The fact that I was able to get him in the 6th round, he's a sneaky pass rush guy. Sneaky pass rush guys you got to pay attention to. I know the Giants have had Micah McFadden, I believe, in the past at linebacker out of Indiana a few years ago, and he's played some significant snaps with him. This guy can have that type of path, right? A late round pick that can end up having significant snaps. So just wanted to list that off.
Yeah, I'll go and jump because we can kick the Tampa Bay to the next one because I got Tampa Bay in mind as well. Okay. I'm going to kick it to the Eagles real quick. Mekhi Lemon, Eli Stowers, Markel Bell, Cole Payton. I like what they did with their first 4 picks, jumping up and taking Mekhi Lemon while he was on the phone with the Pittsburgh Steelers is just cold, shrewd business. You hear me? You understand? I think this is also the other signal, the bat signal. AJ Brown is absolutely getting traded.
Out of there. I tweeted that out. Like, you don't need any more confirmation or question marks. It don't even make sense for the reporters to ask it anymore. All you asking now is win, right?
It's over, man. It's over. Yeah. So now you bring in Mekhi Lemon, you get Eli Stowers to be that secondary and future tight end behind Dallas Goedert.
I love that. I didn't know DP if they were going to jump in and get a flex tight end. I didn't know how high they was going to prioritize it. But you go get an athlete like Eli Stowers, you plan on throwing the football to him.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to that. Markel Bell got it. They could develop to take one of those tackle spots. And lastly, Keith, I interviewed him, Cole Payton. If you haven't checked it out, last Wednesday afternoon, I had Cole Payton on the show for about 15, 20 minutes. Great interview. And my comp for him was Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it was. So I thought about that and I laughed. I'm like, because DP definitely compared Jalen Hurts to Cole Payton. This is what I thought too. I'm like, the Eagles are stirring up backhanded drama. It's like, what do you mean by that? Jalen Hurts took the job of a North Dakota State quarterback, and then they go and draft a North Dakota State quarterback. Somebody in the Philly media is waiting to tie this together, right? Like, it is coming.
Absolutely.
It is coming. We know it's coming. So, I agree with you. I like it. And they had a bit of a gap, right? Because they had rounds 1, 2, 3. Then they didn't have a pick in the 4th round, and then they had 5, 6, 7. The point that I wanted to make, they traded. I can't remember what pick they traded though. And he was able to get Jonathan Grenard, the edge rusher, right?
Yes,
and when healthy, this young man, he skims that double-digit sack, right? So they got another kind of speed, a little bit combined with power edge rusher to boost that edge, boost that profile, especially after they lost Jalen Phillips. So I thought they did a really good job with that. But DP, like you said, man, let's do this. Let's transition. We having fun, right? This is why we're here. We're here to hand out draft grades, show you our rankings, why the teams did good, why some teams did bad. Jacksonville Jaguars, right? We're gonna continue to say that, and then we're gonna transition. When we transition, we're gonna talk some Tampa Bay Bucks, and we have a couple NFC East teams coming in here. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We are handing out draft rankings.
The NFL Draft came and went, where preparation meets opportunity and every decision matters. It's all about being ready when your moment comes, and that same mindset applies off the field too. That's where Rougit comes in. Rougit offers treatments designed to help you feel ready and confident when it matters most. Their top option, Rougit Ready, is a mint that dissolves under your tongue with clinically proven ingredients. It works quickly, often in about 15 minutes, and can last up to 36 hours. And they also offer Go Long, designed to help with both performance and control. It's all about showing up at your best whenever your moment is. So head to Rougit.com/LockedOnNFL and get 15% off your ED treatment. Again, that's Rougit.com, RUGIT.com/LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Rougit Performance Medicine for Men. NFC draft grades and rankings 4 through 7, Keith. At number 4, I have the New Orleans Saints. I'm sorry, they had the same grade as the Giants. So I gave them a B+. I gave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5 a B+ as well, and then I gave the Carolina Panthers at 6 a B, and the Washington Commanders a B-. Keith, who did you have from 4 through 7?
Yeah, so I think we had the Bucks and the Eagles flipped, I believe. So I had the Eagles at 4, and I gave them an A-. I was pretty generous with my grades toward the top. They like a couple of these teams I really liked what they did. I had an A-. Then the Dallas Cowboys I have right behind them. I had them at a B+. And then the Carolina Panthers I had at a B. I thought they had a pretty solid draft. But let's do this because we hinted at it. Let's flush it out. The Tampa Bay Bucks. Because I have a few teams that I wasn't expecting. When I started looking, I'm like, that's not a traditional good drafting team, right? But the Tampa Bay Bucks draft class, DP, you had them at 4, right? I had them at 3, which I released last segment. Let's jump into it. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Talk. Man, I'm running through their picks. Pick 15, edge rusher Rueben Bane out of Miami. 2nd round, they get Josiah Trotter out of Missouri, linebacker. 3rd round, because all the tight ends push these wide receivers into the 3rd round. They get Ted Hurst, my guy out of Georgia State. The 4th round, they got Keontae Scott, nickel corner out of Miami. In 5th round, I love this pick too, and the value. Defensive tackle DeMonte Capehart. They went into this. Like, I love teams, number one, that go into the draft for the plan, Keith, but then are able to adjust to the board as the board is adjusting in real time. Them sitting there at 15, we've been mocking Akeem Messidor because we never thought Rueben Bane would get there, right? They say, you know what? They're both available, but we're taking the better one. We're taking the younger one. We're taking the guy that we want to change. And if for those watching, if you watch the draft, please go back and watch when Rueben Bane name's called and he walks to go get his hat. This man did not look in the mirror. He didn't pose.
DP, there were probably 8 other, because he was pick 15. So you had 14 teams pass on him. There were probably 10 teams that said we probably should have drafted that guy.
Yes. He looked pissed off.
Yep.
He looked pissed. He looked ready to play football right there. Like, if you told him, hey, we got your pads in the back, we can suit up right now, he would have suited up that night, Keith. Yep. So getting him at 15 was a big thing. Addressing linebacker, getting Josiah Trotter, a tackling machine. You lost Levante David. They brought in Alex Anzalone to be the veteran. I think that's a nice duo on the second level. Ted Hurst, you lose the big body receiver that you probably shouldn't have lost. And Mike Evans, he went to San Fran. Getting Ted Hurst, 6'4", almost 6'4", 200 and almost 10 pounds, 4'4", 40-yard dash time. Getting Keontae Scott and DeMonte Capehart in rounds 4 and 5, just like mid-round, late-round gems and steals. I love what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did.
Man, DP, they first 5 picks, chef's kiss.
Yeah, bro.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, chef's kiss, right? And there was every guy, maybe Josiah Trotter, right? You could have probably expected to be there. But if you'd have told me that round 3, pick 20, Ted Hurst was going to be there, I'd have said no shot, right?
Crazy.
You'd have told me Keontae Scott would have been available in the 4th round. You're talking about, like you said, a defensive back that on this very podcast, and I'm stick by my word, that you cut on the highlights of him and Caleb Downs, they are very similar as far as prospects, right? And then to follow it up with DeMonte Capehart, a young man that I've liked a lot as far as interior defensive lineman, you get him in the 5th round. I'm going to say this last guy, DP, Bauer Sharp. And we know Clemson is one of those schools where everything went wrong. And last year, LSU was one of those schools where everything went wrong. Bauer Sharp, the year before when he was at Oklahoma, go watch that film. This is a flex hybrid type of tight end, H-back. Like, he does a lot of split flow stuff. Like, he's an interesting little player to kind of watch out for. I wouldn't be surprised if he works his way into the 53-man roster and winds up being very important. Let's see where else we want to go from here. We could stay in the NFC South, DP, because I have the Carolina Panthers, and we discussed the Cowboys. You want to do that? You want to go into the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk Carolina Panthers. We both gave them a B. You know, we both gave them a B. So we gave them the exact same grade. Getting Monroe Freeland, left tackle out of Georgia, fell to him and pick 19. I like the pick. I would have preferred Casey Concepcion there, higher graded player. Monroe, 18 starts. He's 21 years old. Good pass protector. Got to develop. Got some room to develop and everything.
It was one of those. I think that, and I didn't mean to cut you off there smoothly, but
you're good.
I think it was one of those where it fell that way, right? I think they were going to take what offensive tackle was there. I probably would have been critical if they'd have went after Caleb Lomu that early.
Sure, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I think it was just like who was available. And I think it was because I've even did it, right? I've had Monroe Freeland mocked in my top 10, right? But I think the balance of that was he's not a second rounder and he's not a top 10 pick neither, right? So somewhere for an offensive tackle needy team, I think it fell appropriate. I think that's the best.
Yeah, it made sense. I know that was something that they wanted. I just to me, picking them at 19 over some of the playmakers that they could have gotten. You kind of look at it like, all right, he might have to start as a rookie to get the, you know what I mean? Because that's what you're, at least if you're a Panthers fan, you're expecting him to start out at the rookie spot. Start as a rookie, and then that's where the question comes like, hey, are you going to be able to protect our quarterback in his blind side? Because that's when he's right-handed. That's the most important thing. He can see that pressure from Taylor Moton, the veteran. He can see he's looking in that direction. That's what his strong side is. But if you're not consistent on the back end, that could derail this entire offense. But I like the upside of what he brings. I think long term, like he's going to be their answer there. Love getting Lee Hunter in the second round. One of my favorite D tackles in this class. Adding more. Listen, 2 years ago, what was it, the 2024 season? They had the worst defense in the NFL. They allowed like a record. They broke the record on points allowed in the season that year in 2024. The Panthers addressed this defensive line more times than not since then. So number one, you're not going to just dominate us on the ground. We're going to be able to stop the run. A'Shawn Robinson wanted out. They let him go. Getting Lee Hunter is big. Chris Brazzell, I didn't think I dropped his grade. Like as we talked about, he was like more closer to 10 than 5 in our last wide receiver rankings. I didn't think he was going to be. Same thing with Ted Harris. I didn't think either one of them was going to be there at the middle to the end of round 3.
It was all of those wide receivers, right? We just talked about Malachi Fields with the Giants, Ted Harris, and it's weird because it's kind of what you said. Whatever run happened in the second round that went on the tight, like which was weird. And then the wide receivers, like they almost got flipped. I would have understood there was a run on tight ends in the third round, right? But it almost got flipped. And I was because even when the draft was unfolding, I'm like, this is weird. Like I was like, and it was teams that I knew needed wide receivers, right? And then when they took them in the second round, I'm like, okay, you're not getting a wide receiver, but
like Eli Stowers in round 2 makes sense because that's Eli Stowers. Darn Nate Borkature in round 2 doesn't make sense at all, right? Like Marlon Klein from Michigan, upside is there, but again, he's in the second round. Like, what are we doing? So the Panthers were able to get Chris Brazzell. I think this is the sign that hey, Xavier Legette, the time is over in Carolina. And then getting Sam Hecht, the center, which was a spot for them. I believe they lost Austin Corbett, who was their center last year. So getting Sam Hecht, I know that was a guy I think Baltimore probably wanted, and they were trying to see how late they could get him, and they waited a little bit too late. Carolina sniped them, got Sam Hecht. So they got to be, man. I like what they were able to do. Just got to see what that 19th overall pick, what's going to happen with that. But overall, man, I think with Chris Brazzell, now for me, it's like, Bryce, you have a guy, they finally have a guy that can take the top off the defense, and Chris Brazzell that can get vertical.
That's what I was excited for, because I thought they were going to go somebody like Zachariah Branch, but I understand going after the bigger body. You get what I'm saying? That's like similar speed, right? Similar speed, but a bigger frame.
Tracking,
and I think he complements T-Mac, right? He complements T-Mac, and then let's see if he comes in at the 3 or the 2, and then how you're able to kind of flush out this wide receiver room. But this will be the most well-rounded wide receiver room that Bryce Young has had since he's been there, right? Talking about year 4, year 5, whatever. It took a while.
I think this situation should be when they go 11 personnel. I'm putting Brazzell at the Z. You got Tedero McMillan at the X, and you push down Jalen Coker into the slot because him and Coker have a good connection. Him and Bryce. I think they trade Legette, honestly. I
thought it was going to happen during the draft. There were a couple things I was looking for as far as trades. I thought it was going to happen during the draft, but it's definitely something.
I kind of want Dallas to trade for him. I know they traded for Jonathan Mingo, but I'm like, he was better than Mingo. So go get him and pair him up with Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and let's see what you can get. I think you give Dak Prescott, if you put him as the wide receiver 3 behind Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and you give that to Dak, I think Dak could get the most out of him. Like I think Dak would be the perfect quarterback for him to go to.
On DP, he might go to Dallas and be wide receiver 2 if George Pickens not there.
Jesus Christ.
But let's do this, DP. We did teams 1 through 6, right? Let's continue to unveil these rankings, right? We have teams 7 through 10 coming up next. We're talking about our 2026 NFL Draft rankings, the NFC side. We did the NFC side. We got 2 shows. We got the NFC and we're doing the AFC. So make sure y'all stay tuned because we still have 4 more teams to unveil that crack the top 10 of our draft rankings.
Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to still fill is sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. At number 7, Keith, I have the Washington Commanders, gave them a B-. At number 8, I gave the Detroit Lions a B- as well. At number 9 in the NFC, I gave the Seattle Seahawks a C+. And at number 10, I gave the Atlanta Falcons a C+.
DP, we were almost locking step, I believe, with the first two, which, like I said, is crazy because we did this blindly. I have the Washington Commanders at number 7. I gave them a B-. The Detroit Lions, I gave them a C+. The Arizona, and then I have at number 9, the Arizona Cardinals, I gave them a C. And then the Green Bay Packers, I gave them a C. I think we should start 7 and 8 because those are interesting teams that were playoff teams 2 years ago. In the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions. Let's start with the Commanders. I think we both had them at 7, right?
Yeah, we both have them at 7, Keith. And I think for me, getting Sonny Styles, being them
Huge.
sitting at the 7th spot, and Sonny Styles falling to them, I don't think they envisioned that, right? I think we all thought that at 5, the Giants would have taken Sonny Styles, and getting their guy in a sense, at the linebacker spot, but they went with Arvell Reese. So getting Sonny Styles at 7. The Chiefs moved up and got Mansour Delane, so it felt right to you. Getting Antonio, they didn't have a 2nd-round pick, so getting Antonio Williams to come in and be a complimentary receiver to Terry McLaurin, I like that for Jaden Daniels, especially out of that slot, get the slot fade. We know that Jaden Daniels coming into the draft was arguably the most accurate deep ball thrower in his class, so getting a guy that can run that slot fade is good. I like the pick of Joshua Josephs in round 5, adding a big back like Katron Allen at 216 pounds. Keith, I think if he gets enough burn, this might resemble RG3 and Alfred Morris years ago. If he gets enough run in that backfield with Jaden Daniels. So I gave them a B-. I like what they were able to do. They had limited picks, and I graded them a little bit on the curve. Like they didn't have a ton of picks, but they hit with some nice players where they were in the draft slots they were at.
Yeah, I listen, analyzing this, I agree with you. To me, the most important pick was Antonio Williams, being able to grab him in the 3rd round just because of
another wide receiver kicked down the board because of tight ends.
Yeah, right. And then and for the Commanders, they're going to need him, right? They're going to need another playmaker, and Antonio Williams, his build lends itself, I think, to some of what they potentially want out of Deebo Samuel too, right? Like that guy that can be the short area, get him the ball quickly. He can operate in the short areas, create an explosive play. He's much better than what was put on film this year. He's another one of those guys who we keep saying, the LSU and the Clemson guys, right, that failed because of team success, that were first rounders. Antonio Williams, when we started this process in June, right, and then people revealing mock drafts in August, he was a first-round wide receiver. Like we forget, like it's a lot that came with that, and that's for a reason. So if they're able to grab a guy like that in the 3rd round, I think that helps tremendously. And they didn't have a lot of cracks at it, DP, as far as a lot of draft picks. I think it was like a 1st, a 3rd, a 5th, and then a couple 6th, I believe.
Yeah, 2, 6, and 7th,
yeah, but I thought that they made good use of what they had as far as addressing positional needs. Where you want to go from here? We can talk the Lions.
Let's see. Let's go to Detroit. Let's go to Detroit, Keith.
All right, cool. Let's go to Detroit.
So Detroit, I like what Detroit did. And it's crazy because this is how I felt like it was going to play out at 17. They had a chance to draft Monroe Freeland, who went to the Panthers, but I was like, this signals to me that Penei Sewell, the smoke about him going to left tackle, I think that was real. He's going to left tackle because then you bring in a guy in Blake Miller, 6'6", 315, who has played and started 54 consecutive games, and he's a true right tackle. Now, is he athletic enough to play left? Yes, but he's a true right tackle that can come in and let Penei Sewell play his natural position, which was left tackle. Then finally, like I've been praying for this day that they'll find an edge rusher to go opposite of our guy Aiden Hutchinson, and they went right back to Michigan and got our boy Derek Moore.
Indeed, this is something that I've been discussing and mocking. Right, they got him probably 30 picks later, but I've talked about that with Detroit when they were predicted to be drafted in the back end of the 1st round because we thought that they would make the playoffs and make a run. I'm like at pick 28, 29, it makes sense that they go edge, right? Like go to Derek Moore, and because I think there's a lot more to be unfolded from him, right? And if Aiden Hutchinson is soaking up the double teams, I feel really good about this young man coming in, right, and being able to help out on the other side, versatile hybrid. Like he fits.
He's a power, high motor, All of that.
100%. I like that. I thought the Jimmy Roder out of Michigan, going back to Michigan again. It's an interesting thing there in Detroit, Michigan. They keep going to Michigan, right? These guys don't have far to go. I thought that was a solid pick. And then I look at the Keith Abney, right? They have a type with corners, right? And I think they like the undersized corners too, right? These undersized, scrappy guys. And Keith Abney fall. I think all of those guys fell, DP. Keith Abney, well, D'Angelo Pounds went kind of decently high, right? I think
second round.
Third round, yeah. And then Chandler Rivers fell too. But I thought there was just a theme, right? We like these guys, and this is what I've noticed in the past, because remember there was Tomlinson from TCU in the past, and there's been a couple other undersized, scrappy, nickel-ish corners. Those guys usually just don't fly off the board high. That's why I was hesitant about, like where they would go. Because both of them are good football players, but I like Keith Abney going to the Lions. They need cornerback help. And then Kendrick Law, I think he could be a sneaky utilization guy. They just find different ways. If they're creative offensively again this year, how they were with Ben Johnson, they're going to find some ways to get Kendrick Law the football, because he's one of those run after the catch slot guys, stick lowers, can get up the field, can
explosive.
Push. Yeah, explosive. So
I wonder if he can, because I can't remember. I wonder if he could run some special teams for him, some like punt and kick return.
Yeah, I think
have that type of value.
I think he will be asked to do that. I think he definitely.
And that would make sense to get him on the field.
I like their draft DP because I think that they addressed team needs in appropriate places. I didn't think they reached for anything, and they took care of needs.
They took care of the board, and then they allowed the board to take care of them. Yeah, and like I said, I don't like teams to reach and go crazy. Keith, I want to talk about the Seattle Seahawks real quick. I like what they did overall. It's another team that they didn't have a 4th round pick.
They didn't have a lot of cracks either, right?
No, not in the high value range. They had like I think 5 or 6 day 3 picks, but it's like you're taking more backups and special teamers and practice squad guys in that range. But their top 3 picks, again, like I talked about, I think with the Giants and stuff, I expect their top 3 picks to see the field. Jadarian Price is probably going to start the season out as RB1 after we get through training camp. They drafted Bud Clark, the nickel safety out of TCU, who had an outstanding week at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. And then they went for, again, they have a type, that big 6'1", almost 6'2", 200-plus pound corner, Julian Neal out of Arkansas. Right, so they went, and I had them going like maybe a Takara Davis or a guy right in their backyard with a Ephesians price up, but they went to Arkansas and got that big body corner who's a good athlete and everything. I think all 3 of these guys are going to see the field and play meaningful snaps for them as rookies, especially Jadarian Price. I know a lot of people weren't high on, hey, you're taking a guy at 32 who wasn't the starter. Let me tell you something, guys. Most of the running backs in this class, let me say most. Every running back in this class outside of Jeremiah Love, if they were on the same team as Jeremiah Love, they were in Jadarian Price's spot, RB2. They weren't going to see the field nearly as much as if they were somewhere else as the RB1. That just is what it is, man. So I think that they understood what they needed to do, and they did pretty solid on the board. They didn't have a lot of high-value picks, but they got good value from where they were drafted.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they didn't crack my top 10 DP. And for me, it was just because of the weighted stuff, like you told, like the draft picks. They didn't have a lot towards the beginning. But I really, now, like I said, I like the Jadarian Price pick. I really like the Bud Clark pick. He fit the Seattle Seahawks. Remembering that guy from the Senior Bowl. And it's just his mentality, too. Like the trash talking, the scrappy. He's going to play well with. I know they're not the Legion of Boom anymore. I forgot what their new nickname is. But he gonna fit well. Real quick, because I rounded out with the Arizona Cardinals at 9 and the Green Bay Packers at 10. I ready to talk about the Arizona Cardinals real quick. Jeremiah Love, right? Going to get the running back. We're gonna run the football. You followed it up with Chase Sanchez. We're going to run the football. I like getting Carson back in the 3rd round, right? Like at one point, this guy was a 1st round pick. He's healthy. He played a solid year last year. He got 2 veterans in the room. He doesn't necessarily have to play. You didn't expend a whole lot of draft capital. Listen, if you get halfway, you're not seeing what you want from Carson Beck, you jump right back into it in the 2027 NFL draft, right? And potentially go get your quarterback. You can make a decision. I kind of hate to say it like this. You can make a decision to kind of tank a little bit, right? If you don't like what you see from Carson Beck, right? Then Caleb Proctor, I like this young man. getting upfield, versatile defensive tackle. I think he led the not in the Sun Belt Conference. I can't remember what conference it is, smaller conference at Southeastern, led that conference in sacks, I believe. And then Reggie Virgil in round 5 DP. I think Reggie Virgil is going to have something to say. I told you out of the 2 Texas Tech wide receivers, I liked him better. He didn't have the fast 40 time, but I like Reggie Virgil better to give them even yet another weapon for this wide receiver core. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we're breaking down the AFC draft grades, giving you same thing, 1 through 3, 4 through 7, 8 through 10, telling you who did well, who did great, who did pretty well, and who did they were okay. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network team every day.